I'll give you my take around what I see and I feel data products are. For some of you who are thinking around using your data to monetize it, to build products around that, like Serum does, for example, where they are building analytics and dashboards, and they're selling back to the airlines, I believe, as customers to inform them about, on-time flights, and if not on time, why, if I capture that correctly. So that is relatively straightforward, that this is not just a dashboard, this is not a report, this is an actual product that delivers value. But it actually can also be a product for internal use cases. I once spoke to somebody a year ago in my true finding phase of data mesh, data products, and asked them, what is a data product? And they said, it's a materialized view. Okay, so that's where it starts. I believe a materialized view on its own is maybe enough for people who are handy with SQL, but I believe it requires a UI, and that's where Astrato comes in. But I think the purpose of it is more conceptually, it serves a purpose, it serves a question, it serves a workflow. It's not just information that is available. And it cannot just come, in my view, as a SQL layer. It has to come with a UI, it has to also come with a logic layer. But more important, with a thinking around treating it like a product, releasing it, governance, having versions, and monitoring and testing it for changes, and also monitoring how usage is. So it's actually a package of multiple technologies, and I'm very excited what James will tell us about it today. I think the most important kind of aspect of it, though, is, as I mentioned, intent. It serves a purpose, but ownership. And now this is something, especially in big organizations, when they have BI for internal use cases, I think there has been almost like a swing from the business wants to build dashboards, Excels, but then IT wants to govern and centralize it, but they don't understand the business. I think the key thing around data products is enabling the business to do things on their own, because they're the ones who understand the data best, the business questions best, and how to drive value in the organization. And that type of ownership, I think, changes everything. Yeah. So self-service, agility, whilst making the lives of James not too hard, because he can govern that quite centrally in Snowflake. I think especially with the ascent of data, if I look at some of the marketing volumes and tables that you guys have, this is just ever increasing. It's not enough. You cannot have a James building dashboards right and left for everyone. So this was a year ago. Actually, in this very room, we had signed with IAG Loyalty, which is managing the Avios brand. Avios, who here is using or not using Avios? Everyone is using Avios. I think there's almost like a battle on how many points, where can I collect them in Amex. I find that super interesting that we have like a UK-based brand that I'm affiliated with coming in and being son of it, and working with Snowflake and also with us. I was very nervous. We had a one-day workshop here, and they said, no, don't worry, we're just going to have like 60 or 70 people. We're going to have some data sets. We're going to unleash them on Astrato and Snowflake on their own. I was like, this is going to work. This is going to work. It's not going to work. And I'm going to be there in person. Shit. But it was actually impressive that they met up in small groups, and literally in, I think, 2-3 hours, they delivered, in different levels of visual quality, I would say, but definitely dashboards and deliverables. I think this has as much, not to say only about the technology, but also about the team that they've been building and how they've been thinking about data products and reorganizing themselves to become data-driven. I'm not going to steal his thunder. Over to you, James Stewart, who's a tech lead at IAG Loyalty, living and breathing, I would say.
Thank you. Needs to go in this one. Thank you, mate. Just bear with me a second. I'm not used to doing these presentations. Hopefully this will work. All right, cool. Hi everyone. I don't know very many people in the room, but I do see a few familiar faces here, which is nice to see. So thanks for coming along. I'm here to talk to you today, and Martin's alluded to already, but how we at IAG Loyalty, Avios brand, have modernized analytics with self-service data apps. What I mean by data apps is mainly about self-serve BI tools and functions, but also kind of it encompasses the full end-to-end data pipeline as well. So I'm going to touch on that in a little bit more detail. I'm James, and I've spent my career in data across quite a few different roles. I'm actually a farmer by trade, so I grew up on a farm up in Scotland, and if you'd asked me 10 years ago that I'd be in the centre of London working in data for IAG Group, I would have laughed at you because my office at that time was a tractor. So yeah, as I said, I've worked in various companies with similar challenges and opportunities across the scope. I think every single company I've worked for has had the same challenges and have struggled to implement data at scale in a way that works for them. My first foray into data was before working for a fintech company out in Australia. So I worked there for 2 years out in Australia. And I got into SQL and data kind of accidentally. I was a business analyst. I wanted to get to know the product a lot better. And one way in which I could do that was learn a bit of SQL on the side, and which really helped me throughout my time at Bravura. I then moved back to the UK and I started working for a consultancy, just based around the corner here. But my time at this consultancy, I was full-time at HSBC for the same client in global banking and commercial. So, you know, come into consultancy thinking you're going to be involved in all of these different fun projects, but getting caught on the one. But to be honest, this was where at HSBC we really tried to scale data products in a modern fashion, which is very difficult at a big legacy financial services company like HSBC. I've always been a bit of an aviation geek, and I've loved to travel. And that's when the opportunity came up at IAG Loyalty. I kind of jumped at it, and I've always kind of hidden my aviation geekness to the outside world. But when you join a large airline group, you quickly realize that most of the people there are av geeks as well, and you can just embrace it. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the IAG Loyalty data journey, what we've been on in the past few years, probably 3 years since we've decided to make big modernization change. What are some of the challenges we had, and kind of also how we're solving that from a ground up rebuild as well. You hear a lot about democratizing data for your organization. I'm going to help explain a little bit about how we've tried to solve that at IAG Loyalty. IAG Loyalty has quite a vast ecosystem of data going on. We've got all our airline opco data, all our retail, financial, travel partner data. It's really quite vast, and it's something that quite shocked me when I went in. So yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about that, and then obviously I'm going to talk about Astrato's role in all of this as well. So as I said, I think we started working with Astrato about 1.5 years ago, I think, pretty much quite soon when I started about 1 year ago. And kind of what we've been doing and what we've been building. And I'm also going to take a little bit of a deep dive into some of the use cases we built with Astrato and some of the business benefit we're getting from it. So my role is in marketing and commercial data. So I'm going to dive a little bit more into the marketing use cases that we've built. And also looking ahead, you know, like we've got some quite ambitious plans for the next, 3, 6 months, year ahead, 2 years ahead after that. So I'll dive into a little bit about that as well. So what is IAG Loyalty? I'm sure many of you here are familiar with the Avios brand itself, but IAG Loyalty is a pioneer in the loyalty industry, over 30 years of experience. So we started off as Air Miles, British Airways Group, and then kind of expanded into also including British Airways Holidays and Avios. The Avios is the loyalty currency for British Airways, Iberia, Aer Lingus, and Vueling, which are all part of the IAG Group. However, we also have Qatar Airways, Finnair, and Loganair, who are actually using Avios as their currency of choice for their loyalty programs as well. And I'll dive into a little bit more detail about that too. So we have over 69 million members enabled across our Avios ecosystem, so they can collect and redeem Avios across all of our air partners and non-air partners as well, including retail, travel, and financial services, as I've said. International Airline Group is a pretty big behemoth of an airline group. It's one of the largest airline groups in the world. We have over 600 aircraft across the various airlines. We're carrying more than 122 million customers to 260 destinations across 91 countries every single year. So yeah, some pretty big numbers there. So what were some of the challenges we had? So when myself and my boss, who's not here today, Sinead, joined the company about 1.5 years ago, we were struggling with our visualization capabilities and, to be honest, our end-to-end data product capabilities. So Accessing data via self-serve could sometimes be slow for colleagues, clunky and difficult to use or manage. What we found is that we had a lot of dashboards built and a lot of front end built. Logic was buried in the front end as well. So what happened was when you were, I would see colleagues when I was first going around the office, clicking on a dashboard in a legacy data platform that I'm not going to name, and pressing refresh, and then having to walk away, make a coffee, and then come back and then remember why they were picking up that task in the first place. So really clunky, really slow. And I think this next quote as well kind of summarizes that quite well, is we built so much on the front end that all of a sudden you had a real disconnect between what the front end was telling you. So you had the same KPIs calculated in slightly different ways, or if the back end data slightly changed, it broke one dashboard but not the other. Basically, a real chaotic mess. And I'm out of breath just talking about it, to be honest with you.
You need water, or?
No, I'm all good, thank you. So what we wanted to focus on is when we first started, we kind of canvassed the area, and we really wanted to understand what's existing in our data ecosystem, what's within our control, what's not within our control. And what became really clear is we really just needed a ground up rebuild from the start. So, which obviously is a pretty horrific journey to go on, especially very daunting from the outset. But we wanted to really hone in and focus on these key points here. So we wanted to simplify the data ecosystem. We wanted everything in a single place, in a single platform, as our single store of data going forward. Uniqueness about being part of IAG Loyalty is we used to be part of British Airways. So then we had obviously a lot of data sitting within their platforms and ecosystems. And you can imagine British Airways, big legacy company, are struggling to also modernize their data platform and tooling subset in the same way. And we were kind of constrained into that, even though we needed to kind of separate ourselves and grow at our own pace as well, because we were really kind of separated from that, and we need to, develop and grow at pace. We really wanted to empower our teams with analytics. So we wanted to give our teams the capability, the tools, the platform that they needed to get their job done, essentially. And ultimately to drive better customer experiences. That might be customers, internal customers, such as business-facing or business partner managers internally. But also we want those partners and managers to make the right decisions. So we want to help improve it for our actual front-end customers, those that are interacting with the Avios ecosystem every day as an airline customer as well. So our approach was, obviously I've kind of touched on this a little bit as well, focus on people, organizational needs and processes, and adopt modern tooling and ways of working as well, which was kind of some of our key challenges as well, because it's a big mindset shift to go from working within, people had been there for many years, used to working in the constraints that they've got, adapted their ways of working to fit within that. And then when you remove all those barriers, it can sometimes be a little bit almost overwhelming for your colleagues to say, okay, we need to do things differently and how we're going to do it. So that's kind of our key approaches we took there. And obviously moving to a modern data team. So we wanted to make all of our data available in one place. We chose to go with Snowflake, obviously, as we're aware, but what we have set up ourselves in is and I'll dive into this in a little bit more detail on the next coming slides as well, is we wanted to set up in a way that each of our data products could manage our own data ecosystem, okay? But using a common framework that can be used across all teams. So we use a multi-Snowflake account organization, okay? Where we have one Snowflake organizational account. However, each of our data products own their own Snowflake account and domain within that as well. And the only way this approach really works is through Snowflake secure data sharing. So basically, if you want access to another product's curated data, you can do Snowflake data sharing between the accounts, which are governed, controlled. There's no copying of data between the two. There's no handoffs of CSVs or files or things not loading properly. So that's the only way that this approach really worked, which was a bit of a game changer for us, because it meant that we could each of our data products could be could control their own destiny going forward in terms of what they wanted to do. And the key focus, and I know it's maybe not the sexy part of data and analytics, but it's focused on building robust and reliable data sets fit for visualization. So there's been a lot of work going into our engineering capability, our ETL tooling, adopting a more modern way of working, getting better at testing data changes and stuff like that as well. So I would say probably the first half of my time at IAG Loyalty was purely just focused on that and making sure we can get that to work and scale. And I can dive into that in a little bit more detail as well later. The benefit behind all of this and using this approach was obviously to centralize governance and control as well, and making sure everything's in a single place. And also, with choosing a data warehouse like Snowflake and a modern approach was that you can get, real-time data streamed in. It's all instant changes, and that's where using a tool like Astrato as your front end with Snowflake really benefits, because there's no lags, there's no processing times or anything like that you need to be worried about. And ultimately, this helps us kind of boost our self-serve capability. So how getting this foundation stuff right really helps when it comes to our business users accessing and playing around with the data as well. So as I said, me and Sinead joined at a similar time, and I'm sure maybe a few of you are familiar with this. This is sometimes tagged as data factory or an analytics lifecycle or a data mark, but this is what we really focused on across each of our data products within our control. So first and foremost, we really needed to make the data available. It sounds intuitive enough, but a lot of the times we actually found in legacy systems that our data wasn't really there what we needed, right? So that meant re-engaging with our partners, re-engaging with our source systems to really get that data re-ingested in its purest format, essentially. And so that's where we really tried to focus on here first. And we had a couple of use cases we want to get right first. And then obviously we have making data usable. A lot of the ingested data, to be honest, is absolutely useless in its raw format. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with that as well. And we really wanted to get that core layer sorted out. So that is your core customer data, your core transaction data, core membership information, and all of this kind of stuff, and all your marketing information. We wanted to make it usable in a way that was answering the business questions first and foremost. So we didn't create a really complex middle layer where you still had to do the same amount of data wrangling to get the insights you needed. So we really tried to focus in here of making these really high quality core data models that are refreshed daily, single source of truth. And that's where Snowflake data sharing across the different accounts could work, because we all work from a single common customer view now, which is controlled and owned by one team. So you've only got one point of failure there. You're not burying logic in the front end where somebody's transforming a customer one way, but not another way. And then obviously we are packaging in all of these raw goods into some nice, shiny, neat front end. Now our kind of front end at the moment is a lot of curated data assets as well that are then used to flow into front-end BI tools such as Astrato. So where my teams come into it and where Sinead's teams come into it, we come into it really at this stage here. This is where we add a lot of our value as a data product team. So we are adding a lot of herbs and spices to the data mix to make it a lot more usable by the business. And this is where it's much more business facing, right? So we are kind of helping our business make the decisions, and obviously our packaged outputs now that we are consolidating into like key kind of products now are really helping the business make decisions and drive the decisions forward. And basically this whole process, you just rinse, repeat per data source, per domain, per area. And as long as you have, we've really focused on getting the framework right in each of these kind of columns, and that's allowing us to really develop and build it at scale now as well. And that's kind of where we're starting to get to now. So now that we've kind of developed and built over time, over the past year and a half of going on this journey, this is our retail lead at IAG Loyalty, who's saying we've seen a significant shift in our ability to gather and analyze insights, richer data at our fingertips. We now have a deeper understanding of partners, enabling us to do more informed data decisions, right? Now, some of this is directly related to maybe the analysis we're providing, but a lot of this now is forming into self-serve BI functionality with the likes of Astrato at the front end as well. So where this person would have had to ask multiple teams for this insight and data based on a partnership launch or whatever, you would have insights that would take weeks, if not months, to pull together by teams because they were doing the whole processing from end to end themselves and one-off and no standardization at all. And what this has meant is this, basically, we have started to really pull together real value bank in terms of what we're actually able to deliver now compared to where we were maybe just over 2 years ago. So 1 in 3 monthly adopters use our self-service products daily in Astrato. So we are seeing a real uptick in the usage. And even today, even you know, in the past couple of months, we're seeing a real drive towards our teams self-serving through Astrato. And that's only increasing as well. And the engagement we can see with our viewers is increasing as well. As I alluded to earlier, we've gone from weeks to minutes for insights to be delivered. So where before maybe people would have to go to a data team to transform the data in a way that they needed for their analysis, which could take weeks or months, we've now standardized a lot of that so people can self-serve it a lot. And I'll go through a proper example in a little minute there of the marketing use case, because I think that's quite a tangible one for all of us in the room. And we've seen a big step up in adoption since launch. So we only probably launched about properly with the products about 8 months ago, I think. I'm trying to remember. The last year has been a bit of a blur. And so we're seeing 165 users really going in there. Yeah.
Self-service feature, that people that want this or is it people downloading report and including schedule and stuff like that?
I can go into that in a bit of detail later, and hopefully it'll help share. But we do have a mix of people who are, you know, wanting to get their data and their view that they need, and we can facilitate that through Astrato directly themselves. So, and no more downloading or anything, but you can download as well if you want, and I'll show that in a little bit more detail as well. And yeah, we've done a little bit of analysis based upon our kind of usual day-to-day asks that we would get from our business units across our data products teams, and we've saved over 230 days so far, whether that be through people waiting to get their insights. Also, like a lot of the data team's time was spent just building insights for people that weren't really being used, or they're being used once or twice and then being parked for the remainder of time. So yeah, we've really seen a massive drive in the right direction where we want to go, because ultimately all this time saves is actually allowing our data teams to work on the fun stuff and the real value add stuff as well, right? So no longer just supporting day-to-day analysis, they're working on, you know, future opportunities and potential going forward as well. And yeah, so I'm kind of going to round up here. I'm not sure how I'm doing for time or whatever, but yeah, so what we wanted to do, and some of the key learnings we had from this as well, was we wanted to obviously centralize our logic for consistency's sake. That has made a massive difference to our organization, where before you used to have to go, some people were going to one table to get certain customer information, some people were getting similar but not quite similar information from another table. We've just completely wiped out all of that and really focused on centralizing data logic. Empowering teams with intuitive tools as well has been really important. So, you know, I don't want to sound like too much of a sales pitch for Astrato here, but really we've been able to let our teams go with Astrato and see how they do. It's quite an intuitive tool to build with. We had a lot of users that were maybe a lot more familiar and competent in some of the legacy BI tooling, but they were actually able to jump in and make this work really quickly for us. There's obviously a learning curve there as well. You know, when you've been building something in one tool for however many years, yep, there's going to be a change. But we've been pleasantly surprised with how quickly people have managed to pivot, because, you know, that's been really important for us in terms of getting up to speed. And we have always tried to prioritize governance and scalability at heart. So if you don't want to be spending all your time maintaining pipelines and maintaining data sources and maintaining BI front ends, really focus on scaling it from the ground up, because that is allowing us to really kind of accelerate in terms of what we're doing and the use cases we're delivering across our ecosystem. So what is next? So this is a little picture of myself, Piers, Martin, and the other tech lead that I work closely with at Loyalty, Jill. This is us at the Snowflake Summit conference a couple of weeks back. I'm not sure if anyone else was there, but it was a great few few days spent there and seeing in all the different ways we can accelerate our
response, right? Speaking about data products, these dimensions measures are curated. That's something that James will make sure whatever that combination is, it's going to be high quality. But then there's the flexibility and agility around it. And then now, of course, also the next level, which is maybe I do also have the ability to not just have a dashboard, but directly also converse, which are my key markets, to literally ask a question and have a chat with it. Mm-hmm. It's absolutely feasible. I don't know if you know, but Snowflake has released Cortex integration. So you can actually connect with Astrato into a Cortex interface and then provide a chatting experience, right? So you're meeting your end users at the skill level that they want. Mm-hmm. But our view, the Astrato view is, no, chatting is not going to replace dashboards. Mm-hmm. Dashboards will still live. You start with a dashboard, you go to a chat, or you go to a dashboard, to a chat, and you end up in a report. Hugo.
Talk about that use case where someone's coming in and they're saying, like, where are my Avios, right? Mm-hmm. But it's a simple query. Mm-hmm. And presumably in Cortex, you can give it the context it needs.
Exactly.
Give it the answer. Yeah. Is your vision that they're coming into like this dashboard and answering the question here? Or what's based somewhere else?
We want to. So the initial vision is to help the contact center resolve these queries quicker, right? And help our customer-facing agents help solve these queries either. So that's where the immediate benefit is, right? Contact center comes in, they can natively type what they want to get, right? And sometimes these questions can be quite complicated as well. The good thing about the Cortex integration is you can make the AI super applied to your data, so it's not just spanning everything, pulling back sporadic results that don't really make any sense. So that's kind of where we're wanting to go immediate. But I guess, yes, you do then facilitate and open the door to be like, why can't customers self-serve this, right, as well? Now, whether that is through a tool like Astrato in the future or not, we don't know. But that's kind of, opens up these possibilities. You get it right at that level, then you can, opens up a lot more. Yeah.
I think this also begs generally the question where I personally don't know where it's going. Are people going to live more in a ChatGPT interface all day long? Yeah. And they want the ChatGPT to connect to Astrato, let's say, mm-hmm. or they want to go to something like Astrato and have a ChatGPT experience mm-hmm. in there. But it could be both potentially. Mm-hmm. So self-service ultimately on the language level, on the pick and choose level, but then also for the more technically savvy folks, why not go into a dashboard directly, edit a draft, and then, maybe all you want to do is literally just change the color or change a title. These changes should not be complex, and stuff like that is then relatively easy. Mm-hmm. I say relatively, it's still a learning curve. Mm-hmm. One thing that you did mention, so I do have to show this, is other ways with Gen AI to simplify even the creation process. That's something we're working on quite actively. We're not yet there mm-hmm. entirely, but our vision is, can you, instead of coming here, defining measures, dimensions, just, instruct it, and ultimately control and build the chart on the fly for you, top free only. And then the idea is, can you build a dashboard with vibes? I think this is where it's going. It's not a question of if. And it's in our fun tenant, which is our test tenant. I would say the functionality is the easy bit. The difficulty is making sure it produces good outcomes, the quality. But it also should work not just with instructions, that's level one, but more goal-orientated, make it pretty. Who doesn't want to have a pretty dashboard? Okay, I added some things, but add a legend. But the idea is, for somebody who doesn't know, we have almost like a little BI assistant mm-hmm. you'd be speaking to. And we envision that eventually you'll be able to also have the building experience easier. Mm-hmm. If not only for training, but this is kind of future music as well. But and then you can enable anybody, right, to build dashboards on any skill level, as long as they can speak and clear mind. Yeah.
Should we don't to the data level and more data to be able to tell the AI what they want to see.
Yeah.
Exactly, and ask the right questions. Or AI propose things and you pick and choose what is right. I think this is the biggest last hurdle to unlock self-service behind and give data access to everybody in your organization, regardless of skill level, right?
Yeah.
Princess?
Recommend having the, let's say, core factory that just show outputs like product usage or spend data, and then where you add in perhaps like the semantic data, like the CRM information, where there's like more business logic involved. Because I guess we're having a similar problem at the moment at Avios, where all of the logics in the front end of our dashboarding solution also have a multi-region environment. So I think there's definitely repeatable requests that can be materialized using that's what we're working on. But I guess what step is that? Because I'm also looking at adopting Medallion, like standardization as well, just so we have like data that we can investigate backwards, but also then have the final output.
Yeah.
So what's that stage?
Oh, I don't know how to answer that question. I mean, what we did. So you said you're starting from where a lot of logic is buried in the front end for yourself, yeah. Again, yeah, we started off with small use cases where we knew we could probably do it better from end to end. And then once you really start to unpick the smaller use cases, you then start to see the peripheral that's happening, that's going on. And that's kind of what we've done over time. And then we've enabled more teams to build and develop in that way. And then they've had more thoughts about, okay, wait a minute, I can decouple this logic and put it into these layers as well and stuff like that. I'm not going to lie, it's been a really difficult task. And because so much logic's been built into the front end, it meant that actually there was so much of our front end was just breaking all the time. And debugging where it's breaking by going from a dashboard straight into raw data was horrible, you know? And whereas if you do process it into segregated layers, you can kind of start from the front and work back in layers, and then you can segregate the point. It makes it a lot easier for doing that debugging and root cause analysis of where something's going wrong as well. And then it makes it a lot easier because you're solving a small part of a bigger pipeline, you know, but it's a small part. You don't have to solve the whole pipeline in one go as well. But yeah, I'm happy to have more of a conversation in a bit more detail after. Yeah.
And I highly recommend this. So one of the reasons of these events is for you guys to network, connect with each other. These journeys that you're going through, I think some of the questions that I heard, the end state is obvious.
Yeah.
But how do we get there? How do we get the users to come with us? How do we get the stakeholders to buy in and influence them, right? And I think more often than not, it's not just a playbook. It's a collection of experiences that you are all collecting in your own ways. So you know, do share and do connect with each other. So I'll still want to leave some room for half an hour for self coffees. You can speak to James as well, or like we're going to introduce each other as well. Maybe some final words from my side. One more thing. I've been an Avios user, and one of the biggest benefits of Avios are the reward flights.
Yeah.
I met with James like 2 weeks ago at the wind down, and at one point we spoke about, you know, I understand the reward flights and everything, but you make it extremely hard to book it, right?
It's terrible.
I was like, because I was trying to understand the business model. I'm like, you don't really want us to spend the Avios, right? Like you're making it very, very hard, like enticing us.
Yeah.
Turns out, actually, one of my favorite data products is actually their new app that they have, and I only found out about 2 weeks ago that
Is this a BA app or
Avios app, not to be mistaken, right? Different companies.
It's difficult.
They also have it online.
They have it in the front end as well. Yeah. Avios.com.
Avios.com it is, right?
Yeah.
So, and I found that absolutely liberating. So instead of, you know,
you need to sign in to do the search, sadly, but
I need to sign in. Oh, there you go. Something does work here behind the scenes. Please do the trick. But exactly that fuzzy search. I'm open to traveling wherever. Okay, I give up.
We've maybe made it too hard now.
Okay, it works on my phone though.
Yeah.
For sure. But yeah, the idea that you can now search, where do you want to go? When is your trip? And do a fuzzy search and then show you the availability and oriented yourself this way.
Because funnily enough, we want to make it easy for you to use your Avios. I know it sounds like, and it seems like we make it complicated. That's not by design. Trust me.
So yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, recommend the Avios app. You can see where to Oceania. We'll show you all the availability, so you can orientate yourselves around that. I recommend it, and then hopefully you can start spending them. Wonderful. Then thank you so much for joining us. So we'll still have coffee. We'll still have some food. Please take for your colleagues if you go to the office afterwards. And James and I and Astrato, I'm going to be here, and yeah, we're going to be chatting with you for another 20 minutes, half an hour. But thank you for making the time so far. And thank you, James. Hello.